Welcome viewers! In October, I released a video called Mass Effect 3's Missing Feature. As my first real video essay, the response has come as a pleasant surprise. While I haven't kept up with all the notifications, I appreciate the nice and useful feedback that so many of you have offered. Based on this, I did wish to offer a follow-up, as well as a general description of my future plans for this channel. I'll note that this video is more of an impromptu overview, so this is going to be a little less professional than the essay that preceded it. If you have not already done so, I suggest that you watch the original video first. I'll go ahead and link to it in the description. To summarize my last video's premise, I speculated that the Mass Effect 3 development team originally planned, or at least considered, making every surviving squadmate from Mass Effect 1 and 2 playable in Mass Effect 3, but scrapped the plan based on scheduling and feasibility concerns. This impression was based on the early game mechanics, sequence of events throughout the game, such as missions and cutscenes, and features added to the Citadel DLC. This generated a fair amount of discussion, some complimentary, some nostalgic, some wished to express disappointment with Mass Effect 3 in general, some provided counterpoints as well as additional context. One modder, Oricon, whose work I'd mentioned in relation to some hidden dialogue on Earth, said the following: "The reason most Mass Effect 2 characters were delegated to one-time appearances was because they were supposed to show up in the final mission. The idea was to give players a chance to complete a character's side mission, and if they did, that character would appear during Priority Earth in London. This even extends to Kirrahe." The full comment, found on the original video, cites not just cut audio, but cut mission segments from the game's final act, an apparent leaked script from 2001, as well as comments in the code. While I haven't done a deep dive into every piece of evidence, this comment is credible and provides a good explanation for the Priority Earth dialogue I alluded to, which includes an appearance by Jack addressing her students.
"And whatever happens, I am so damn proud of you guys."
While I would be a little disappointed if my video's premise is wrong, the original video is speculative, so being wrong would not come as a huge shock. Having viewed some additional evidence and having had some time to think about it, I would amend my hypothesis to the following. It appears that the developers of Mass Effect 3 considered making additional surviving squadmates from Mass Effect 1 and 2 playable during Mass Effect 3, but decided against including it at some point during production. Some may say that this is such a broad statement to make it non-falsifiable and therefore invalid as a hypothesis. To that I say, thank you for watching my videos. Be sure to like and subscribe. On a more serious note, while evidence for such a consideration is still admittedly thin, it would fit neatly into the early game inclusion of squadmate substitutions, as well as the fact that BioWare made past squadmates playable in DLC. This is not the only explanation for these facts, but it is a valid explanation in my opinion. More importantly, the video is not just about why I believe that this feature was considered, but also how, if it was implemented, could enhance the player's interaction with the story and characters. In other words, whether or not the developers seriously considered it, I find the possibility interesting for a number of reasons. With that out of the way, I do wish to review some material from the apparent leaked script. This leaked script was actually a number of game files posted online in November of 2011. These files were mined from the opening demo of the game. This includes files with notes concerning various plot elements, mission summaries, dialogue, and other relevant content. Some things should be noted here. First of all, yes, this leak appears to be genuine, as not only did a few developers reference it in their promotional interviews, but the content matches various plot points later included in the game. However, the full context around various notes is unknown. Some plot elements made it into the final game, some were left out or changed. Frankly, it is not possible to look at the files and immediately know the full context of when each line or section was written. Furthermore, the content in this leak is very much incomplete. For these reasons and more, one should not draw too many conclusions from this.
Well, what I'm saying is that there are known knowns and that there are known unknowns, but there's also unknown unknowns. things we don't know that we don't know.
What?
The content that I'm discussing comes from an alleged TLK file as well as a Google Doc. I will be posting some relevant excerpts as we go along, but I will not be reading them verbatim, so feel free to pause the video if you want to read it in their entirety. First, I will note that the script suggests that some former squadmates could be ruled out as playable at the stage of development captured in this quote-unquote script. I previously felt that Sirkesh provided an opportunity to have Morden and/or Rex in the squad. However, the script does indeed mention the same events taking place that we got in the final game. Similarly, I also felt that Tuchanka represented a good opportunity for Morden and Rex, but it appears that their absence from the party was also set in stone at this stage in development, albeit with some minor differences. Grunt's lack of playability also comes through in the summary of Arachni mission, whose scene directions and summaries largely match the final game. Jack, seen at Grissom Academy, also seems set in her role as the text and summaries mostly match what we see in the Grissom Academy mission. Moving on, some previous squadmates are less clear as to whether or not they were eligible to join the squad at this point. Samara's mission summary contains less material and is arguably more ambiguous as to whether Samara may team up with Shepard at some point. Interestingly, one section that may or may not come from the same mission mentions that Samara may stand in for either Edie or an unnamed admiral. In between the leaked script, the leaked TLK file, and the final game, we saw a few different versions of Jacob's mission. Changed plot elements in this mission include the way that Shepard finds out about this mission, as well as the relationship Jacob has to the leader of the facility. There are actually hints of another former Cerberus scientist who has a project that ends up being important to the Crucible in some respect. Interestingly, given that the ex-Cerberus scientist obtained from Jacob's mission is his ex-girlfriend, this suggests that the devs originally planned to allow players to continue a Jacob romance into the third game, just like every other romance. More likely than not, this was cut due to time constraints, changes already baked into the script, and the likelihood that most players wouldn't be importing an active romance with Jacob from Mass Effect 2. Zaid also has a much different role than we see in the game, as he originally was scripted to appear during a base game mission on Omega, which as we all know later became the much more expansive Omega DLC. The TLK file even contains a number of apparent excerpts from the persuasion attempt with Zaid. We actually find contradictory information on Miranda. In one stage of a script, Miranda is indisposed prior to Horizon, as she is a prisoner in the Sanctuary facility. In another stage of development, represented by excerpts from the TLK file, we see some notes that suggest otherwise. One of them even says, after the Horizon mission, Miranda is available for the Endgame, and Oriana becomes the new face of Sanctuary as a proper safe haven for refugees. Finally, some former squadmates plausibly appear to be playable at some point in development. In my previous video, I mentioned that Legion's role called for some playability, and based on certain leaked notes in the script, the team appeared to agree. Legion has a modified story role in which our Geth companion not only shows up with Tali at the outset of Aranak arc, but may be the one to contact Shepard in the first place. The notes for the Geth consensus mission somewhat resembles the final version, but with some key differences. First of all, we do see greater combat mechanics against Reaper infection. Second of all, the text plausibly suggests that Legion might join the player in combat against the Geth Prime. The biggest potential appearances from former squadmates, however, would come from the Citadel coup. This mission contains not only two former squadmates, Thane and Kasumi, but has an appearance from Thane's son Koliat as well. Notably, one excerpt from the script contains a statement that says you, Thane, and Kasumi take on heavy security measures on the way to the council chamber. Thane and Kasumi's presence helps get you past various puzzle obstacles. These notes aren't definitive, but they do suggest that one or more of the characters factor into gameplay. This is, as far as I can tell, the strongest evidence from the leaked files that past squadmates were considered to also join Shepard during the events of Mass Effect 3. Something to keep in mind when discussing these matters is that features, story elements, and other aspects of a game get altered or dropped for a variety of reasons. Development time is just one of them. The leaked script contains several interesting ideas that BioWare considered at one point or another. However, how something looks on paper or in a conceptual stage may look quite different once it is time to actually implement it. In other words, the idea of something is often better than the actual thing. Besides following up on the response to Mass Effect 3's missing feature, I did want to touch on future plans for this channel. So far, my videos have mostly consisted of short crossover clips and edits of Mass Effect footage. I am moving into some longer form content as well. Specifically, I want to talk more about Mass Effect's story and lore. I also have one larger project that I've worked on and off for quite some time, but the writing is mostly done and parts of it will likely factor into some of my other videos. Once this project, which I'm being vague about for now, is done, I want to branch off into some other topics. In other words, this is not going to be exclusively a Mass Effect channel. In fact, it probably won't even be exclusively a gaming channel, but that's further down the line. To be upfront, this channel is not my job, and while I obviously have no intention of neglecting it, I don't have a set schedule for everything, and I don't want to overpromise on when certain things will be ready. For those of you that are here for the shorter clips and don't care much about the other stuff, rest assured that I will still be doing those for now as well. In closing, thank you viewers for the support and encouragement. This is obviously not a big channel, but it's good to know that many of you are finding enjoyment from what I do. As always, feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoy these videos. Also feel free to like and subscribe if you don't. I'm not going to stop you. Thanks for watching.